this is the first paddock I kind of reclaimed, and it's still full of weeds and junk, but it's getting there.
How many sheep do you have right now?
About 40.
Nice.
What is this green spindly thing?
It's just junk. But
That looks like dog fennel.
It is, if they won't eat it.
Yep.
At least they haven't yet. So I'm planting black walnut on the fence row.
Nice. That's great in this lowland ditch environment.
Right.
It'll grow
Try
great.
to utilize that hillside for something. Walnuts in a starvation situation are very nutrient dense, right? And so I can eat them, or the pigs can eat them.
You know what else would grow great just downhill from that on this ditch?
What's
At least
that?
until the walnuts get canopied out. Elderberry.
There's actually elderberry over in the other paddock. I haven't thought about that. I could plant some elderberry. And I know it's called jugulone. Is that how you pronounce it? And so I'd always thought you can't have black walnuts in the pasture. They'll kill all the grass. Literally, the jugulone content in the soil is so low for the first 15 years that it literally doesn't affect the grass at all.
Yeah.
And then after that, maybe a 10%.
Yeah, it's not
nothing.
it's not a bunch with the grass. It's mostly with other broadleaf perennial plants that it's affecting them.
Yeah. So they look like they're doing great right now. So, and if you look at this, it looks like junk from a distance, but then when you look down, it's like, no, there's clover, there's fescue, there's orchard grass.
Yeah.
And then I think I even have some Eastern Gamma that's come up out of the seed bank here. I can't believe is in here. Her grandfather farmed this row cropped for 20 years. Not soybeans, but like pumpkins and corn. And this was his personal garden. And it took 1 year for it to look like this.
Yeah.
I'm not going to have any pasture, Nick, that's just grass. It's going to be as many different species.
Multi-species as you can. Yeah. You want a salad bar?
Yeah. But then also in every pasture, I'm planting honey locust. Right here's an apple tree, the old heirloom apple.
Yep.
That's super cheap, and it makes the little green apples. Sheep, goats, deer.
They'll just love it.
They love it. It gives a little bit of shade.
Yep.
And maybe you can talk about this, Nick. So forever I was taught, or at least I learned, sometimes those are two different things, right? That you don't want trees in your pasture, say shades, and it's going to cut down your forage production. But then I found the study from back in the 1920s where they're like, no, scattered trees with a high canopy, actually you'll have more forage production because during the drought months you get shade.
Yeah.
And it actually protects the soil and keeps the grass okay. And then also, obviously, your ruminants have shade.
Absolutely.
But can you speak about, do you want just acres and acres of just flat
open
pasture?
Nope. You want silvopasture. It is a combination of trees on your pasture. You don't want them shoulder to shoulder.
Right.
You want to give them a good little spread.
Well, would you plant honey locusts or apples? How far apart would you?
Okay, so honey locusts are a very powerful tree.
Yes.
I liken honey locust and black locust to flamethrowers.
Yeah.
Are they cool? Yes. They're powerful? Yes. Yeah. If you don't know what you're doing with them, there's a good chance you're going to get burned.
By them being invasive?
By them being, they're very vigorous, very strong. They're
hard to kill.
They're hard to
Notice
kill.
That, yeah.
And they have horrific, horror movie level thorns.
Yeah.
That means tires.
Yeah, right. And the ones I bought are supposed to have small thorns.
Yep.
Like they're a hybrid.
Yep.
And they're supposed to have huge bean pods.
Okay.
On them when they get to that. But I mean.
So when they sexually reproduce, their offspring, all of the bean pods that don't get destroyed in the GI tract of your herbivores, you'll have new wild type.
Yep. And they will not be
and they will not be that hybrid. So what you have to do is you will have to make sure that you're coming through and mowing, or at least getting enough of that animal pressure cycled back on top of it.
Because the sheep love the foliage.
Right.
I mean, they wear them out. But then 2 weeks later, it's like it never happened. Yeah.
Right. So you might end up running into, 10, 15 years down the road, man, it's literally a thorn in my side.
Yeah.
And wanting to get rid of it.
So control them early.
Yep, control them. Like I said, the pods have a tremendous amount of carbohydrates. Yeah. They'll put a lot of fat on your animals. Just treat them like like a flamethrower and try to not get burned.
I've probably planted 100 of them on the whole 40 acres, just to grab some nitrogen.
Sure.
Right, and then to have those big bean pods, and then I the way I understand it, you can chop and drop them for forage. Like if you're having a terrible drought,
Yeah.
you can just cut the top off, and they'll immediately come back.
Just about, yeah.
When you cut them high, is that pollarding or
That's
coppicing?
pollarding.
That's pollarding.
Yep.
Yeah, or you can also coppice them, and they'll boom, just explode.
Yep.
So either way, they can either eat the bean pods or the forage. Either way, and then if they start to get out of hand, I'll just when I'm rotating, I'll have my loppers with me, and I'll just cut them at the ground, and then the sheep can wear them out when they come back. Yeah. Any other trees that you would highly recommend in a silvopasture situation? Because right now I'm getting started. I'm going to spend the money. I'm going to buy good hybrid trees to basically, I want this silvopasture to be so rich and luxurious and forage rich that my sheep get so fat that they just pop their skin, like they literally explode. They got such good forage.
So the 3 trees that I recommend everyone look into for livestock feed are the king is white mulberry. White mulberry has been selectively bred for literally thousands of years to be high protein, high digestible protein content. And people talk about them being invasive. That just means they're hardy.
Right.
And they're very productive.
Right.
That's great.
And they're hard to kill. And for a newbie like me, hard to kill is good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So
white mulberry, hybrid poplar, and hybrid willow.
Yeah, I've got the poplar and the willow.
Yep.
I've already been putting those around, especially the willow. And then another thing, have you ever heard of using river cane?
Yes.
And
so Arundo donax, the giant river cane.
I've read from publications back in the 1920s that in the South there used to be square miles of river cane that the cattle would get lost in for days, and they would just eat until they were so fat they couldn't walk. And that used to be a big part of southern
ag. Yeah, getting those long-term infrastructure things set in place and growing now means that in 20 years, 30 years, they're going to be at peak production. And it's kind of like, in the financial system, we have compounding interest. So you could start an investment portfolio for your brand new baby, right? You could start that investment portfolio and start it making compound interest, where you're not having to work to put into it and put into it and put into it. It is doing the work for you, and it's building wealth for your family. Setting up these kinds of systems is doing that. We're setting it up, and we just started a little savings account here, a little savings account there, and it's compounding the interest year after year after year until it becomes so dividend rich that we can just harvest off of it and just coast on it. And then that can push your family into greater long-term health and wealth.
Is this a 1 acre paddock? What would
one and a half.
I got 2 apple trees, 8 black walnuts,